is 1 o'clock. Hopefully everyone is making their way over from networking and expo to our white space roundtables. This session is on agricultural upcycling. Super excited to see this really great set of panelists discuss this exciting topic. I'm going to start by introducing our moderator, Noëmi Kaufmann. She is the project manager of circular economy at Buhler AG. She, like myself, is a material scientist, and she is passionate about sustainable materials innovation. She works in the CTO office, is responsible for valorizing customer side streams, such as carbon neutral resources for food, textiles, packaging, fertilizer, energy, and more. So I will leave it to Noëmi to introduce the rest of the panelists and moderate our session. Thanks, Noëmi.
Thank you very much, Sydney, and I'm very looking forward to moderating this session today. I would like, before we really start and jump into the topic, I would like to say a few words about the relevance of this topic. And as Sydney said, I'm very passionate about sustainability, and I believe only sustainable companies will survive in the future. But also we as individuals have to rethink our choices, especially in the food and in the fashion industry, to decrease our carbon footprint. For example, plant-based products in the food industry have a 10 times lower footprint than animal products. And this also is true for fashion products that are animal-based. At the same time, and at the global level, we have more than 1.5 billion tons of biomass available that currently goes to waste. And these materials actually are a new resource that can be upcycled in many areas, one of which is the next generation materials. And this is a space where we're going to talk about, and I'm really glad that we have 4 amazing leaders from this space here with me on this panel. And before I introduce them personally, I would actually like directly to give the word to them so that they can say a few words about themselves and the company. So maybe I would like to directly start with Melanie. Melanie joins from Ananas, Anam, and I'm very happy to hand over the word to you now.
Sorry. Hi, thank you, Noëmi, and really pleased to join. Hi, everyone. So I'm Melanie, the CEO of Ananas Anam. So just a few words about my personal background. So I come with a 10-year work experience in the corporate world, in the luxury industry, but in the cosmetic side, very much turned into sustainability already. And then followed by 8 years working very closely with founders and business owners to help grow and scale their businesses. I also set up my own business in the food sector. So I joined Ananas Anam about 4 years ago, just after their Series A fundraise, and to really come with the combination of international global corporate experience, but with the empathy and understanding of what it takes to build up a company from scratch and to take it to the next step of growth. So over the last 4 years, so Ananas Anam was back in 2018 a really commercial prototype ready to be launched, and so the business has grown 10 times since then. There's extraordinary demand for new materials, and yeah, so we're lucky to have had fantastic partnerships with brands, and yeah, and looking forward to tell you more about Ananas Anam and the products a bit later.
Thank you very much, Melanie. It's really impressive how you've built the startup about this innovative leather-like textile made out of pineapple leaves. And similar from a very different plant, but also the orange peels, Enrica's startup, Orange Fiber, has actually also grown in the last years. And I would like to hand over now the word to Enrica to introduce herself quickly, and also the company she has been helping to build up as well.
Thank you so much. I'm Enrica, co-founder of Orange Fiber. My personal and work background was more in communication for impact, I would say. So I come from development cooperation and communication studies. And I co-founded Orange Fiber in 2014. Back in the days, I was mainly in charge of strategic communication and participation to events and startup accelerator. And since 2019, I'm the CEO. Our company was born in 2014 with the idea of transforming the byproducts from the juice and orange juice production, which are equivalent of half of the weight of every fresh orange going into the process of transformation into a new material for fashion. And after being on the market 2016, 2017, we took a little break to rethink the whole process, and we are just back on the market since 1 year almost, with a new product and a new fabric collection. So we'll be very happy to join the challenges and the progress that has been done in these 8 years of adventure with orange fiber.
That's fantastic to hear, and very glad that we have you here on this panel discussion. And it's impressive how you've built this up in the last 6 years, 7 years, and a very similar time, but even also very experienced. We have also David Lee here with us. He is from Kedi Knitwear, and really happy that you're joining from the US. And I'm happy to give you the word and introduce yourself and your company.
Thank you, Noëmi, and it's really a pleasure and an honor to be here on this platform. I founded with my ex-partner, Katie, New York, about 40 years ago. We were actually we met as dancers. We were both ex-dancers. We danced at the Oakland Ballet in California. And we started making knits for our dance customers, and eventually we developed a yoga following, and moved to New York and started selling it. New York at the time was and still is, considered the dance capital of the world. We started selling our things to dancers and yoga enthusiasts all over the world. We decided that we really came down the side of making our own products, so we set up factory here in New York and made our own products, and have made our products here in New York for over 30 years. We mostly appealed to the active market, and since I was a vegetarian, we were really, I mean, dance is really in that active and that comfort space. So so we moved more into athleisure. Me being a vegetarian, it really influenced a lot of the decisions that we made about our yarn choices and our product choices. And early on, I started looking at plant-based materials, and I started looking at cashmere in particular because it's considered a luxury product. And as I looked more into the cashmere market, I realized that, and did more research on it, I realized how unsustainable, especially at the price points it was selling at, how unsustainable that market was. And I thought that, with my background in comfort and also being a vegetarian and plant-based products anyway, that it would be very interesting to look in that direction of developing a plant-based alternative to the animal fiber cashmere. So I started that journey about 10 years ago, and I've been, that's what, and now what I've decided is that I'd like to pivot the entire company in that direction of sustainable, environmentally low impact, plant-based fibers and local manufacturing. So we're setting up a new factory in the Bronx, in Hunts Point, the Bronx, and we're in the process of developing that, and that's we're just kind of continuing this mission of developing plant-based fibers.
It's fantastic to have you, and it's also an honor for us to have you all here together. And now I would also like to give the word to Mira and Nameth from Biophilica, also building a plant-based product from a side stream or a biofeedstock into something very valuable that can be used across many different industries. So Mira, over the word to you.
Thank you so much. So yeah, similarly to I think several of you, I came from a slightly different background as well. So I was a creative director at digital agencies, both in London and New York. And I used to work with fashion brands in that capacity. And we would redesign and rebuild their websites. You know, we did lots of e-coms and photo shoots, etc. Yeah, it was obviously quite interesting to understand all of that. But then I had my daughter, Nora, in 2013. And it started changing my perspective a lot. So it suddenly climate change took on this whole new shape. You know, and I've read this about others as well, that you know, when you have children, you really start thinking about what's the world going to look like in 100 years, in 200 years. And that made me really want to work within something where I could be a part of the solution. And I decided to go back to college, which was the Royal College of Art in my case. And during that master's program, I was walking into the college, which is opposite of Hyde Park. And you know, being a designer with a design background, I've always been really interested in plant waste, and not thinking of it as plant waste, but you know, like leaves and twigs and bark. They're beautiful in their own right. And I think I was picking up something that day. I honestly don't even know what it was I was picking up. And I started thinking about, you know, there's so much green waste around us. So at that point, I was thinking mainly about sort of, you know, park and garden waste. And I was also thinking about cities, how large cities will become mega cities in the future, and how we need to look at the kind of sustainability of cities as well. So that was really just kind of the starting point of all of that thinking. And then went about this journey to start making, you know, material experiments with green waste. And I'm going to show a little sample here because I think that's always fun. So now, I think it's about 3 years later, we started honing in more on a leather alternative. And we were always really interested in keeping it, you know, plants only, so that at the end of its life, it could be recycled and composted as well. So we never wanted to mix in any plastic polymers, which makes it all the more challenging and interesting. But it's been an amazing journey so far. So this is us. This is Biophilica and our material tree kind. And yeah, it's really great to be part of the discussion today.
Thank you all so much for this amazing introduction. And what I find the most inspiring is that you all come from completely different background. You found the way to this very meaningful new innovative products that are so needed on this planet, and that will determine how we will also be able to live sustainably on this planet, reducing the waste, reducing the side stream, and building products that are sustainable and have a lower CO2 footprint. And I think now we're ready to go and have and jump into more details. And I'm really looking forward to ask you many more questions, but also to the audience. If you have any questions that you feel inspired to ask these great panelists, please type them in the chat, and I will pick them up when the time is right, in the middle, but also more in the end. And I'm really looking forward to also hear what you're looking forward to hear from this audience. So my first question I would like to direct to Melanie, and we heard that you're building such a beautiful, sustainable textile that can replace animal products, and you take pineapple fibers to actually produce that, and upcycle that into a type of leather. At the same time, you've already bee certified your corporation, and I think that's very interesting, and I think also our audience would be interested to hear more about that. But what I would like to also ask is, what makes this vegan and plant-based textile so unique compared to the current solution that we have on the market? And we heard also before there are plastic alternatives, but also cotton alternatives. What makes Ananas Anam's Piñatex so unique, and how are you achieving that? And I know this was a bit a large question, but feel free to take the time to elaborate.
Great, thank you, Noémi. Yeah, so Piñatex is indeed made from pineapple leaf fibers, and I mean, first of all, what I would say makes it unique is Piñatex was one of the pioneers to enter and to create the market of plant-based alternatives to leather. It was straight from the beginnings positioned as an alternative to leather. And I think since then, many other players have entered into the market, and there are plenty of different offers, be it bio-based coatings with fruit resins or mycelium that tend like leather, or Biophilica, as you just presented. And so it's very exciting to see all these new entrants to the market, because first of all, what's important, it's a very large market, and there's room for plenty of different solutions. And I think the second really important point is that no one is perfect from day one. For us at for Piñatex, and I would say at Ananas Anam, the mindset is that we are all on a journey. It's a product journey, it's a material journey, it's also a human journey, and we are very, very conscious that you cannot achieve full recyclability or biodegradability from day one. But what is important is to create a product, first of all, that works, and these are really the words from our founder, Dr. Carmen Hirosa, who started her research back in the late 90s, and then as Mira, as you, she started all over again at the Royal College of Art in a PhD to create Piñatex. So it's a long journey, and it's a really total dedication to create this. And so within this long roadmap, you obviously get better every day, and you need obviously support from everyone to achieve that. And what has helped us a lot very early in the journey, already in 2016, has to be able to launch capsule collections with fantastic brands, global brands like Hugo Boss, H&M. And then the Hilton hotels approached us as well to create this first vegan street in the world, and to use Piñatex as much as possible in the room as headboards on the sofas, and even created a specific reception area with armchairs covered in Piñatex, and even in the restaurant in a specific area, just to enjoy a vegan meal and sitting not on leather chairs, but chairs upholstered in Piñatex. So it was an incredible experience also for us to see how the material evolves in different setups, also within interior design. And so then step by step, we also, I would say, grew in confidence and positioned Piñatex more as a material in its own right. It has its own aesthetic, it has its own character. And then we have started creating more lines. So we start with Piñatex Original, who's with this really signature aesthetic. And then we've launched another line, Piñatex Performance, that is, as the name says, it's more intended to applications that require material properties that are stronger. And for brands who actually look more for a leather-like look. So we have offers for all requests and types of applications. So yeah, so we were the leader entering the market. Piñatex is unique in the sense where it's made from waste. It's up to 95% of renewable resources as an input. There are in total 72% of pineapple leaf fibers in this material. I mean, we create a felt made from pineapple leaf fibers and bind it with PLA. And that is already quite unique. There are not many solutions out there where you have a full material made from plant-based matter, so and from waste. So that's one of the unique points. Also, we are, I would say, today still the most available solution out there, commercially available at scale. We started in 2016, and we've built up the supply chain, and so we're able to obviously deliver. We've organized our systems, our internal logistics, and also setting up customer service to be able to cater for the massive demand we still have to experience, to try peanut eggs. And yeah, and then of course improving the material properties. So it's finding the right balance between reducing the amount of petroleum-based resins you need at some stage to reach the material properties, especially in footwear, and to continue with research and development on a daily basis to reach the perfect balance between not needing it anymore, but still reaching the required material properties. And within the last 2-3 years, we've made enormous progress, and we only have 5% left in the coating, and we have a roadmap to achieve 100%. You can technically already have 100% of totally renewable resources, but then you wouldn't reach the material properties. So this is where you have to have, I'd say, a strong and long roadmap to achieve that solution, and also to find the right end of life for the product. Is it recyclable? It's recyclable. Peanut eggs is actually recyclable, but the technology to recycle is not scaled yet. So this is where it's also important to surround yourself by the right partners, and then to find also investors who help you to grow together. And then last but not least, I think the two other important aspects of peanut egg and what makes it unique, it's a product that ticks all the boxes, also from an environmental point of view. As we're using waste as an input for the material, the fact that these pineapple leaves that are waste, it's a byproduct of the pineapple harvest, they're in 80% of the cases, they're burned. And the fact that we valorize that waste, it avoids the release of harmful substances and CO2 into the atmosphere. And so we have counted now, so we per linear meter of peanut eggs, we avoid 12 kilograms of CO2 to be released in the atmosphere. And to give you an idea of the scale, I mean, you have to go step by step, right? But just last year, the amount of CO2 we avoided, it's comparable to charging 33 million smartphones. So just to give you an idea of the scale. And so talking about scale, another really important aspect is it a scalable solution? And which means, is it a scalable raw material that you can find at a global level? And yes, the good news is, yes, you can find pineapples, I mean, wherever you have tropical climates. And they're about, according to our calculations, about 27 million tons of leaf waste per year on a global scale. And if we extracted the fibers of all of that, we could literally replace the whole leather shoe production on an annual basis. So there's more than enough to address the footwear market.
That's very impressive.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for
yeah,
sharing.
Sorry, if I might just add, sorry, just because it's so important, is it's the social impact. It's the third aspect, because we're a B Corp company, and it's unique in the sense where we build our own supply chain, and we work with cooperatives in the Philippines, and now recently we've announced our partnership with Bangladesh. And that means that we're creating additional revenue streams for pineapple growers, new opportunities, job opportunities for people in remote countryside areas. And just in Bangladesh, we have created now new opportunities for 130 families, and it's 90% workers, women workers, and it's run by an actual female CEO. So we're also really working on positive social impact and gender balance.
That's truly fantastic how many areas you're covering across the whole area of sustainability and our sustainability development goals in social, environmental, and also nature aspects, and reducing waste, of course. And this brings me also already to the next question, where Enrica is also very much involved in the waste reduction within the food industry, but with the fruit of orange and the orange peels. And you have touched on it before, and you're producing this product very sustainably, and you're also taking a holistic approach, taking into consideration how this contributes to a circular economy, but also you're already thinking about the end of life and how your product actually has the impact, what impact the product has at the end of its life, and how you can treat. Can you tell us more about this? And Enrica?
Yes, for sure. So we started the company a long time ago, and as Melanie mentioned, back in the days, what was most relevant for us was to use a byproduct on one hand and to have a product which works on the other hand. And then by having that interaction with brands and iterating the process, we found that the perception of sustainability itself was shifting over time. So for us, the more we learned and the more we were exposed to the growing awareness, the more we decided to shift our focus. Of course, the process is there and the waste reduction is there, but also we are trying to raise the knowledge of the general public, I would say, about the concept of cost per use on one hand. So why, if you buy something which is made for lasting longer, then you are not actually spending more than you would spend on like low budget products. So trying to shift and target those brands that are able to convey that message on one hand. And on the other hand, we are a fully man-made cellulosic fiber. We currently don't blend with any plastic source, so to avoid the release of microplastics. But and we will do biodegradability trials, assuming that the performance will be comparable with that of man-made cellulosic fiber. But we are also super aware that into this equation comes the dyes and the coloring and the finishing of the product. So, and also the knowledge of the final client, because maybe the product is recyclable, but where and how will the client remember that in 5 to 10 years? So and maybe there will be, and hopefully there will be, different technologies and different collection methods that we now just don't know. So we are now trying to include product passport and digital product passport to, on one hand, ensure traceability of the process, and on the other hand, keep that door open for the clients to inquire or for us to upload information on taking care of the garments and maybe recycling them at the end of the day.
Yeah, thank you very much, Enrica. That's very insightful. And we have already a question here in the chat that I also wanted to ask you. Are there any challenges when using these types of side stream and waste materials, and which ones, and how are you dealing with them?
Well, I can start, but maybe, yeah. I think we have seen, for instance, in Sicily, a number of insects and viruses that have attacked oranges, and I think the same was true for United States. This is not very challenging for us at the current moment, I would say, but still it's something we have to take an eyes on. I mean, oranges were born to like grow actually in the Mediterranean and high temperature countries, so it shouldn't be, but still the risk is there, even of flooding or just changing so much the climate and the season and the weather that maybe the trees will take some time to readjust. And when it comes to the challenges for using this type of waste stream, well, the one that are known is that for us it's very seasonal. So it's harvested and squeezed just a few years a month. So we need to make sure that in that month we get all the feedstock that we need throughout the year. And this we are able to do through partnership with the squeezer, which might dry the intermediate product to a point where we can store it and keep it for working it throughout the year. But also the very huge dishomogeneity. I mean, there are no two products which are the same in nature. So sometimes the content of cellulose might vary, and also sometimes there might be contamination of something for the machine that have been used to squeeze them, or for the means of transportation of the dried peels. So I think in general, for my experience, the use of waste stream for raw material when it comes to oranges has a few challenges for the standardization of the input to your process.
Thank you very much, Enrica. And I think those challenges we're facing, all of us, and all of these different taking different kind of raw materials. And I would like to direct my next question to Mira, who also takes different side streams, different plants, but also has also interesting learnings that you can maybe share with us, because you mentioned before that your raw material is also based off almost 100% or at least a very high percentage of plant-based material. What are the challenges, but also what are the opportunities to deal with this kind of new raw material for sustainable production? And what can you share with us in building up this new learnings when building up this new supply chain?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, I think really the key thing there is that it is building up a new supply chain. So I think for several of these products, we've basically had to almost create new processes and logistics around this waste stream. Because if something's considered waste, obviously, it usually goes someplace else. And when you want to turn it into a resource, then you need to build a system for that resource. And that comes down to, several things. Also, how clean you want that resource to be, how you store that resource, how you transport that resource, and also how you process that resource. And so, something that we're looking at actually this year is working with farmers here in the UK, and we've also gotten interest from Dutch farmers as well, to really explore the processing of the waste stream actually on site with them, rather than us taking it almost completely raw and processing it ourselves, because I think that's a really interesting model as well, where it becomes kind of more decentralized with different agricultural companies or farmers. So that's what we're really interested in that. And we also think that, like Melanie was saying, especially for biomaterials in general, so there are lots of different types of materials here, lots of different applications and customers, that it's really important to look at these different kinds of supply chains and what it means on the larger scale. So we think that there's enormous opportunity for agricultural waste. So we're specifically interested in lignocellulose. And our formulation, luckily, is it's a very accepting formulation that is open to a lot of different kinds of green waste, a lot of different kinds of agricultural waste. But there are so many other companies as well working in this area. And we think this is amazing. And we really want to be part of the supply chain kind of developments as well. So working with these farmers so that other companies doing, you know, similar things or different things can also, you know, partake in that waste stream, basically, and create kind of a new market for green waste and agricultural waste, because cellulose is amazing. It's super abundant. It's in so many places, and it has so much potential. You know, as excited as people were about, you know, plastic in the previous century, I think people will be as excited about cellulose in this century.
That's a great statement, and I'm writing this down. So cellulose is the new material of the 21st century, and that's really brilliant to hear. And glad to hear that you're looking now into more decentralized and also reducing the carbon footprint of the transport sector, shipping all these materials around the world.
And that's a really key point, exactly, is, you know, when you really bring these different things together, that you're working with, you know, plants in the first place, and then the more local you can make it, you know, the better in terms of the carbon footprint. So, yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I think that brings me already to the next question. And I think, David Lee, you have also built up quite a lot of experience over the last years when you build up your business, and you have also been in this space for a long time. And actually, I would love to tap into your knowledge and that you can share with us here today about how you started so many years ago. And I would be curious to hear what were your learnings building this business up for the last I think 10 years almost, and also get your insights and how you feel has changed the space now from back then and now. Is it different, and what is different, and what makes this so exciting and accelerating at the moment?
Well, to start with your last question, I think particularly in the last 3 to 4 years, I've seen a huge movement in this direction. You know, probably not enough, but it's moving in that direction towards plant-based alternatives. And as far as the specifics are concerned, I'm seeing a lot more certifications required from not only on the B2B level, but now the consumer is looking at, you know, what certifications are going that they can look at to certify that, you know, this company or this product is not greenwashed, and that it justifies its messaging, and I think that it's a good thing, because you know, it's requiring accountability on all levels. But you know, I think that one of the challenging things is that for small brands, for small manufacturers, for small developers, I think that you know, my fear is that, and my hope is that it doesn't become a pay-to-play kind of experience where, you know, you have to have so many certifications in order to get validation for your brand and for your product, that it becomes prohibited. But also, I see there's been a huge amount of consumer understanding and awareness in product, and a demand for new understanding, for more understanding. You know, where's the product coming from? What is it? What's going into it? What is it? Where is it made? And how is it made? And what are the materials? And interest in end to end. Is it, if it's plant based, what plants or is it coming from? And what's the traceability, the real traceability of the lifespan of that product, and from the plant all the way to the consumer level. And also I think that in the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a huge movement towards policy development on the government and the finance level. Policies that encourage, and I see that here in New York City, policies that encourage use of waste to upcycle new materials. And on the finance side, I see a bigger interest in funding companies that are in this space. I think it's still challenging to get financing, especially for minority and women businesses. But I think we are moving into the general awareness and the general demand of the public that they want environmentally low impact products, and that they want to see more of them on the market, and they want to learn more about where they're coming from and what their use is and how they can bring them into their lives. I think it's just a natural place for, it has to be supported. And I think finance and I think policy is moving in that direction as well. I think that for me, I would also like to see more cellulose is awesome, but I'd like to see more interest in protein-based plant alternatives as well, because I think that they bring another huge value into that conversation, and I think they're also readily available, especially from food waste, and I just like to see more movement in that direction, and that's one of the things that one of the areas that we're really looking into and putting in on our model.
You're taking the side stream from the tofu production, is that correct?
So,
right?
So in our case, we're looking in, for instance, in the tofu production, the protein that comes from the waste of tofu production, and developing and looking at what does it take to develop that product, and and fibers from different fibers from that waste. So in our case, that's really where our focus is at the moment.
Are there specific challenges when using this type of waste, and are there policies in place that hinder you or enable you to use this kind of side stream that would otherwise maybe be wasted?
Well, I mean, it's a new area, and those are the things that we're looking into right now. We're still developing the traceability of the product, and what it takes to actually build the protein-based. I mean, it's impossible to have 100% protein-based product right now. It's a work in progress, but that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, thank you very much for this answer, and super interesting to hear. And I would like to come back to Enrica and also bring this, connect to the challenges that we have at the moment. And we are growing a lot, but there are also many challenges. And what are the challenges that you're facing at the moment, and where are you growing the most, and how are you're tackling them? Yeah.
Well, I think the most challenges we are facing right now are somehow connected to fundraising on one hand and scaling up the technology on the other hand, because the supply chain we are dealing with and fashion house in general have sometimes they are very quick in taking a decision, but sometimes they might take also 10 to 12 months. So sustain the company during that very long decision process while keeping a stock available is quite a challenge, even if the product is commercially available, because at least for us, it's not easy to get a precise commitment on the quantities before the product is already, defined and the contract is signed. So I think one of the challenges is, staying there and keep on pushing as the decision process is closed. And of course, this has an impact on the key performance indicator of the company and how the investors perceive them and the margins and so far and so on a very business perspective. Whereas on an industrial perspective, the challenge are that we need to build machineries and plants. I mean, we're not sending people to the moon, but the point is, cellulose is word, and that like technologies for cellulose have been there for hundreds of years, but most of them are available at a size that it's enormous for our needs before really having a clear market response. So we are staying in a middle ground where there's nothing really available to produce, so we need to make it on our own. And so I think that's also quite a challenge, and the only way I foresee to overcome it is really to work with partnership, as we did with Lansing, for instance, on producing themselves fiber with them. Because otherwise, if I need to think about having my own machinery to create a fiber, whatever that is, then it will take 10 more years. So scale and availability of partners to co-invest or have joint process, I think it's the other main challenge we will have to face in the near future.
Thank you very much, and it's very interesting to hear, and I think it's also important for the audience to know where they actually can support also you as startups and doing businesses in that space, or where we need to bring together the right people to support and connect different companies for collaboration. And I think that connects also well to the topic that how can we measure the impact that we can create in order to communicate also globally what we're doing. And I think Mira, in a previous conversation, we also talked about this, and I would like to ask you, you're creating this sustainable business. How are you quantifying and measuring the impact that you're creating with your product?
Yeah, so that's obviously really important to others to see, but it's also really important for us to know where we're at. And so the way that we have started that process is by doing an impact analysis of our material. And then that also creates a really good benchmark for us to then sort of compare against as we progress and develop. But yeah, we, much like I think many others, we're really focused on the energy, the CO2, the water, and also for us, obviously, as for my fellow panelists, the absence of chemicals as well. That's really of the utmost importance for us. And then beyond that, we're really interested in the kind of circularity of the system around the material as we scale up. And so we're obviously interested in water recovery and also interested in potentially using recovered CO2 as part of the process itself. That's to be further investigated. Yeah, I think it's important to have like a good starting point, and then seeing, and then also the measurements of that starting point, and then very much which areas can you improve on, where can you go from here, and then you just get better and better and better. And I think that's really important and really satisfying as well. And I know that's also it's similar with the B Corp kind of strategy as well, that you kind of see where you are now, and then you see where you can improve. So that's what we're really interested in, both for our material and as a company. And I think that's going to be pretty typical for companies going forward.
Mm-hmm. And I think there we all need to work also together to have a common denominator and can also support each other, counting and finding the right KPIs to really communicate that this is the most sustainable option. And I think that leads me to the next question I have for Melanie, because I know that Ananas Anam has been involved also in building a broader network of the green, the fiber alliance. So knowing this, and also that you're trying to bring all different companies together that are on this journey, what is your forecast in the future? Where do you see the biggest opportunity to come for businesses like this?
Yeah, so as you say, we obviously are very, very much involved also in the community, and it's one of the aspects of being a B Corp company, but it's in our DNA. I'd say the part of our values is to not only create value for obviously the company, but everyone, the team, our suppliers, our clients, our shareholders, and of course the environment, and also creating value for the extended community. And so it's been a wish that we had. I mean, I say we also with Kaufmann, our founder, is to find a network, a way to reach out to all the other solutions that are out there, and to all the credible founders and entrepreneurs, and unite them around the common subject of natural fibers. So Ananas Anam has been one of the founding partners of the Fiber Material Alliance, which is really connecting everyone working and exploring and building around ancient underrepresented natural fibers or new natural fibers. And we count ourselves as pineapple leaf fibers, part of the newer ones, in the sense where they're now being valorized within natural textiles. And the wish is really to put all the energy together and to become one voice, and to obviously give clarity, to position ourselves within this big market, and to be more powerful in getting messages across, and getting, I mean, David was mentioning the request for certifications, and it's so true. We're all facing incredible amount of different types of assessment. There's no unique way of setting KPIs to understand how we operate, how to assess us, and really understand where does the assessment actually start. Is it just at the production level, or is it what gets into the product? What's the end of life? Looking at the big picture. There's still so much to be done, and also on the policy level, at government level. And so the whole idea is to come together and really, I would say, fight for the bigger picture, and be it for us at European level most of all, because we are based in Europe, but also across. I mean, we have now a subsidiary in the Philippines and in Spain, so it's a really also multicultural adventure, and also to get things moving over in Asia. So yeah, it's all about the power of building this community and be stronger together.
Thank you very much. And building this community is what we're also trying to do here, and bringing also all enthusiasts together that want to support you. So also for the audience, follow those great leaders in this industry, and see what they're doing next as well. And I have one last question to David, and then I will also pick a few from the audience that we have not yet touched upon. But before to David, and maybe looking again into the future, but also taking the learnings that you have. So what are the learnings that and the elements that you've learned the most in the past building this business, and what would you recommend others building such a company? What can you share?
I think, especially listening to the other panelists, as far as this industry is concerned, as far as this movement is concerned, we're pretty, we're not that young. We are young as businesses. We're not, I mean, Melanie has been at it for over 8 years, Enrica as well, and myself. And I think that one of the biggest things that I would say is that be prepared for the long haul. I mean, and like Enrica was saying, there's a big difference. There's a huge gap between starting up and the capital that it's going to take to get to market. I have been, pretty fortunate in with KD. We started out making product and with our, and having a brand, and then, kind of did it the other way, started developing fibers and developing yarns. And so in that respect, I always had a market for proof of concept. And I think that for a brand happening now, I think that to a certain extent is imperative to be able to get that that consumer proof of concept as quickly as possible, to see that you're on the right track, and to see how you can cut that timeline down between what you're developing and getting it to market and scaling it. I think that is the hugest challenge, especially for businesses like ours, where typically we're small, we're startups, we're entrepreneurs, and we're it's not necessarily a technology company per se. We know that it's going to take a while, and we know that we have to have a product at the end of the day that we can scale to a certain extent. So I think it's really important to be aware of that timeline of what it's going to take, and be prepared for that battle. What kind of capital is it going to take? What kind of resources, technical resources, is it going to take? What kind of machinery and equipment? Where is that? How can you access it? And how can you develop the kind of partners that you need to make that, to keep that trend going, and also to be aware of consumer trends. Consumer trends are changing constantly, and especially for us. I mean, still, I think that plant-based fibers only represent about 5% of the industry. So there's going to be a lot of change to get to 20%, to get to 50%, to get to 75%, which is our goal is 100% actually. For plant-based fibers to be to have the kind of environmental impact that we think is necessary to turn things around. But I think that what I would mostly encourage is be cognizant of the time, and be prepared with solutions, and not just capital but resources.
Thank you very much, David, for all these tips and tricks and recommendations where we all can work together to make this a thriving business, but also an impactful one in the future. And now we have only a few minutes left, unfortunately, and there are still a few questions open from the chat. And if I may ask to keep the answers quick from you, but I will just, anyone here on the panel can take it up. There was a question in the beginning that I found actually very interesting. Is there any concern in that climate change and higher temperature will challenge the ability to grow those crops, or how are you prepared for that?
That's a good question. It's we're not using so much. We're using byproduct waste, and in our case, soy is it's pretty prevalent. But that's a very good question. I mean, I think it speaks to the kind of research that we're going to have to be doing, and taking a look at what's happening in the environment, and how it impacts our products. But in our case, we're using waste, and waste is there. There will always be food waste.
Yeah, and I think it's please, Melanie.
So just if I may add, I mean, we although we're using also waste, the leaves of the plant, of course, we're now also getting more and more involved into working very closely with the pineapple growers, be it small cooperatives, family-run cooperatives, or big corporations like with Dole, which whom we concluded a partnership last year. It's all about now looking even earlier into the process. How about the lands where the pineapple grow? How about regenerative agriculture? How about biodiversity? All these are subjects now that we also feel responsible, and we want to push and encourage and work with our pineapple grower partners to make sure that we're addressing also climate change at the very beginning, even before it becomes a waste.
Okay, thank you very much. And I don't know how it is with the time, but there is one interesting question also now in the end. What is the cost of the material relative to mycelium or cultured lab? And maybe someone can take it up quickly. And I think it has been a bit touched, but maybe to summarize.
In our case, in our case, we are looking at cutting the cost. We're looking at our cost by comparison to the product that we're mimicking, or that we're that's in our purview right now. We're looking at cutting the cost all across every aspect of it. So costs are less.
All right. With that, I think we are over time. Thank you so much, Noëmi, for moderating this discussion and for our panelists on a really rich activity. I will suggest that everybody who is online, please move over to the stage for the next session on the performance of next-gen materials. If you have further questions, feel free to message any of the panelists or the moderator directly to get your questions asked. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everyone. It was a great panel. It's an honor to have your stage, and I wish you all a great afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Noëmi. Thank you, guys.